You've got a smoker with a computer-controlled fan that regulates your temperature, but an adjustable vent, and you're not sure what to do with it. This is the video for you. Hey guys, I am Steve the Cookout Coach, and we're here to help you take your barbecue to the next level no matter what you need. Today what we're going to be talking about is the Char-Griller Gravity 980 cooker and its adjustable vent. Now, for those of you that don't know, the intake and the outtake vents on a smoker or grill are essentially the lifeblood of how that machine works. When it comes to running a live fire machine, it all comes down to how much oxygen you can get into that fire. Also part of that is how much of the exhaust gases that you can get out at the same time. Think of it like the quicker you can get exhaust gases out, the more quickly you can get new oxygen into that fire. Now that dynamic gets even more interesting when you add fully insulated cookers to the mix. Things like Kamados, or in today's case, the Gravity 980. When we have that insulation, we're going to hold more temperature inside of the cooking chamber. Therefore, our fire doesn't have to be that big, or if it's being stoked by a fan, like in this case, it doesn't have to be stoked as often. Now the computer on this cooker is pretty intelligent from what I've seen in a lot of my testing. It does well to figure out what it needs to do to get that temperature to be correct no matter what the circumstance. As a general rule of thumb, for me, whenever I'm running this cooker, especially if I'm doing a hot and fast cook like grilling a steak, or if I'm just trying to get more smoke on something, I leave the vent wide open. I do this so that we can make sure that our fire is constantly getting stoked and we're constantly moving lots of air through that smoke chamber. The more air passes through, the more smoke hits the meat, and you see where I'm going with this. Now, if you're in a colder environment, you're worried about fuel consumption, which really, with this cooker, I wouldn't really worry about fuel consumption, but let's say, for instance, hypothetically, we're smoking something overnight and we know the temperature is going to be around 0. If you close this about halfway, it's going to hold more heat in that insulated chamber and thus won't be required to stoke the fire as often. The trade-off is you don't move as much air across the food, but it doesn't have to be stoked as often either because that temperature in there is holding. This behavior, I think, can also lend itself really well to applications like baking on a cooker, which if you've never tried baking things on a smoker, it really adds a nice little touch. You should give it a try. Now this principle today, we're talking about the Gravity 980, but obviously this applies to any sort of smoker that is ran in a similar way, whether it be a pellet grill or whatever, that has a stack with a damper on it for the exhaust. So to summarize, 99.9% of the time, leave that wide open and you'll be happy as a clam. But as always, I really recommend you play with your smokers. You see what they do, see how they'll behave. You know, maybe if you close it down, you want a little less smoke, you want a little less of that charcoal flavor on maybe an apple pie. Close it down a little bit, see what it does. I hope this helped explain this today. I've been getting this question quite a bit. If it doesn't, if you need some more explanation, let me know in the comments. If you try it and have a different result than what I've seen, hey, let me know as well. Back to talking about baking on a smoker. Why don't you meet me over here? Let's talk about some apple pie.